In the Yeshiva Alvovis and in the Madreigas Ha'adam, they both begin their chapters about Bitachon in extolling the Maila of Bitachon as opposed to other things. Because I think it's not enough to say to a person Bitachon is a mitzvah and that you're a godly person if you have Bitachon, like he does say over here. If you have to sell Bitachon not when people need it. When people need it, it's late to sell Bitachon. Guy's about to go into an operation, all of a sudden he decides to have Bitachon. Maybe he can. Kashrah Ma'isa, maybe he can. Bitachon has to be learned and thought about before it comes crunch time. Before crunch time. It's one of the things that you say this, that you have to be creative when you still have the ability to make a difference, because Bitachon is overcoming your own ability to make a difference. Not that you shouldn't, but you shouldn't think it's me. One of the great battles that goes on beneath the surface, it's not even beneath the surface, against Zionism, for example. So what is the battle against Zionism? What has and what is it? Because in Zionism it says, Koichi v'yotzim yodi. Pasuk says you shouldn't say Koichi v'yotzim yodi, or Zionists say it's our army, it's Sahal, it's not the Bari Olam, it's Koichi v'yotzim yodi. So that ticks off the Frumveld, of course, because what do you mean Koichi v'yotzim yodi? Denying the Rebbeinu Shalom. Even taxi drivers say Hashem Yazor. Even taxi drivers know that. But if a colonel or somebody, a high officer, before the operation in Gaza recently, so he gave a shmooze to his soldiers, and he lost not one of them by telling them the Rebbeinu Shalom was going with you and helping you, chulu chulu. So he was disciplined by his superiors. What are you talking about the Rebbeinu Shalom for? What is it, mussar? Mussar, Rebbeinu Shalom. Mihu. So the big objection is Koichi v'yotzim yodi. Now, I'm not changing the subject. What I'm trying to tell you is that Bitachon is to know that there's a Rebbeinu Shalom running the world. That's what it means. It isn't me. And that primarily is an Ayson when you can do it yourself. If the Israeli army is very capable to say the Rebbeinu Shalom does it, that is their Ayson. That is their Ayson. They have to say the Rebbeinu Shalom does it. But there's a little bit deeper than that, because they have to not just say it, but you have to mean it. It's not just lip service. At least lip service. There should be lip service. There should be just saying the words like, Mirza Hashem. What does that mean, Mirza Hashem? It means I can't do it. The Rebbeinu Shalom will, if he wants, he will do it. Okay, is it just an expression that's used about something that didn't occur yet? Or is it something that you really believe in? Mirza Hashem. That's what we're talking about. So I think that both of these approaches to Bitachon, Madreigas Ha'adam, they begin with what the benefits are. So that the person who's in a position to really make a difference for himself, by himself, will understand that nevertheless, he should have Bitachon because there's milas in Bitachon for him. He spoke about Nuchas HaNefesh, becoming a godly person. He's a Gavaldik milas. But of course, to speak to a person who has no choices anymore about Bitachon, it's very easy for him. He has no choices anyway. What's he going to do? And this, as I said, fits together with the issue of Koichi v'yotzim yodi. Is it me or is it the Rebbeinu Shalom? And naturally, even from people ascribe to themselves that it was them who did it. I was smart. I thought of the idea. I was gutsy. I'm a risk taker. And you see, it pays off. So now he turns, having spoken about the milas that the Baal Bitachon has, so he turns now to speak about Ul'uma Zois Abateach Ba'odom, people who trust other people. Not they trust other people because they're fools. Trust in other people who are, you go to a person with a problem and the person says, I'll take care of it for you. We all do that. Don't worry about it. Chill out. Calm down. I do it also. There was a time when we were in Virginia Street and the Buddha's department was going to close us down. And I went to see the head of the inspectors. His name is Frank Turtletaub. Tachshit, not a from Yid, but a Tachshit of Yid. And I said to him, they're going to issue a court order to close the yeshiva. I have nowhere to go. He said, Rabbi, I'm in charge of enforcement. We're not going to close the yeshiva. I said, but Mr. Frank, you're going to get a court order to do it. He said, I get a lot of court orders. I said, what are you going to do? He said, I'm going to put it on the bottom of the pile. He said, Frank, what happens when you go through the pile? He says, it's going to be in the bottom drawer where I can't find it. I went to him, I was so relieved. Frank told I was going to take care of me. It's so natural to do that. A wonderful Jew. The question is, if at that time I went in there believing that the Baruch Hashem will take care of it, he has to take care of it, it's his problem, and I'm just going through the motions, making it look as if I'm doing it. The mashal that's given is, maybe I can modernize it slightly. A guy sitting on a train, and he's impatient to get to a certain place, so he pushes on the seat in front of him. He's going to make the train go faster. He's pushing. If you have that view that I just have to go through the motions, but the Russian is going to run what he wants, and that is the aside of what it's about, so then you really have acquired what we're talking about. And I'm learning this with you in order to learn it myself again. Uma zois abater ba'odam hu chasar kofel. And compared to Bitachon b'Rabban Shalom, so Bitachon in another person is a double chasar. Ha'achas sheyesh lo pizur nefesh. Even when you trust another person, you always have doubts about it. Hu muchach l'fomim l'saken asmai l'nsaya b'drachim am-sukonim. People, as I mentioned to you before, that Jews were involved in various activities that they don't do today, but at that time they couldn't survive without doing illegal activities. And to do such things. Oy lishtamish b'msoyim shel sheker asher pachad mavis toli b'hem. They have to lie in a way that the czar can get a hold of them and put a bullet through them. Imisvoda masehu, if they find out you did it. Oshiyamed kol yomov kol yomei chayav. Adasher ya'avid koichoy. Ya'avid, he'll work, Yamal, he'll work until he loses all his strength, may Rabbi Yosef from all that work. V'yivga yedei kamoikain chaya ruach shaloi, and he loses his whole ruchnias. He can't daven, he can't learn. Shunei hishtad lusai u'muchrach lachanoi fudnei odom, and because of his efforts, what he has to do is he has to butter people up. He spoke about all this before, I don't know why it's repeated here. And to bow full length. He has to bow full length in front of a person that he thinks is going to help him. He has to be mevatl himself. V'liyos kol yomov V'lichyos kol yom of chayet tsar. And all his life he lives with pain. Moli pachat, full of fears. Shema loy chonaf loy heitev. Maybe he didn't chaf him enough. V'lei lecholek hakoved royal. And maybe he didn't give the proper amount of respect. Lo Ayson shebadaito lekabel mehem tayelis. To those people he thinks he's going to get a gain from. And he's afraid. Maybe they're not happy with him. They're not satisfied for him. Since he depends on others according to the way he understands things. And those people depend on they depend on others. Maybe one of them will lose his job. And everybody else will follow. I'll tell you something, a cute story I had over here in the Yeshiva. I had many experiences in the Yeshiva. You learn a lot of things just about the job. I'll tell you a story. When the Yeshiva has a water meter, and we kept getting summonses because the water meter doesn't have a seal on it. It was years ago in the other building, still here. It didn't have a seal. It has to have a special seal on it that you can't change the numbers. It wasn't sealed. And it's a standard in New York that the plumbers at that time, they probably take more now, there has to be somebody called a licensed plumber, not a plumber who's licensed by the city or the state, I don't know who. And he's the only one who can put a seal on. He comes in and just puts a little lead seal on. He charges you $400 at that time. It's probably like $4,000 today for nothing. So I called the buildings department, the department of, I don't know what it was, the Department of Water and Sewers or the building department. And of course somebody answers the phone and I say, I want to speak to somebody, and I hear that, who I'm talking to. I'm talking to some low-level person. So I say, can I speak to your superior? Oh, hold on a second. We move up to another office. I say, hello? I hear another voice that doesn't interest me. So can I speak to your superior? I went up 2-3 levels. Till finally a guy picks up the phone, if I remember correctly, he said, Josh Finkelstein. I know I had the right guy. I said, Mr. Finkelstein, I have a problem. He said, what's the problem? I said, we have a water meter on Yeshiva, and it's not sealed. He says, $400. I said, I know, but my question is, he said, let me tell you a question, Rabbi. The question is this, since the Yeshiva doesn't pay for the water anyway, because it's free to Yeshivas, so what do you have to put a seal on for $400? There's no use money. It doesn't matter if you monkey around with the meter. You don't pay by the meter anyway. Is that your question, Rabbi? So that's part of it. The other part is, every month they get a summons for $100 or something. It's all stacked up because they don't have a seal on the meter. He said, Rabbi, I'm going to take you off the list and I'm going to cancel all your summonses. Is that okay? I said, sure. So you have to get, I don't remember Mr. Finkelstein, but right away you hear it from his voice and from his name, was a Jewish name. Good story. Glad I told you. So, there's always somebody in charge of somebody else. If you can get to that person, it's very good. Many times I've had to, call the president of some corporation because the thing was just not going through. President of this, whatever it is. A person who lives in fear, a person who trusts in people, he's afraid that this guy won't be able to do it. He's afraid the guy above him will stop him, or the guy above him may fire him. Who knows? We're going through all kinds of paperwork and hassle. She was perfectly safe and fine. But somebody has to sign off on something that is okay. The guy has to sign off as a very old man. And the papers haven't come to him yet. So I think to myself, who says he'll live long enough to sign it? And we finally got the guy who's willing to sign it. A pachat. If you have to talk and you say, the Baruch is going to see it get signed by him, by somebody else, and it's going to go away. If you don't have to talk and you say, how can I speed up the papers to come to this guy and sign? He's an old man. Who knows? It's all kinds of fears. So maybe these people depend on other people. But I feel yasik davar ma. And even when he does achieve something, the person gets something. Who davar cotton? How I davar cotton? It's a small thing. Ach mikra asher lo yasmid. It just happens to be it came across for him. But who says it will be constantly getting it? Al zeh omar. Because of this it says, again, Borech HaGever Shiftach B'Hashem, the opening passage that he spoke about till now. And then it says, Va'ah u'min Hashem or Odom. Or HaGever. Asher, what's supposed to go? What is it? Louder.
Some mussar.
Hashem, some mussar royai. U'min Hashem Yoser Liboy. And he turns his heart away from the Baruch Shalom. Hainu. She'ein lo shum derech she'hatzlachosoi yehei nischus. There's no way of understanding that his hatzlacha is just the beginning of a long hatzlacha. Achash are called tmichosoi tuluya b'mikrim zmaniyim, because all the things that come to him depend on just accidents, because the Baruch Shalom is not involved in them. Chozman yesh lefached olay yistakim b'derech. And he has a constant fear, maybe he'll be in a sakana. Vlayomus, maybe he'll die of starvation. Ben liyimsa chaim be'enei zulosai. Maybe other people don't like him. V'afshishodem echad hilshin olav. Maybe somebody has ratted him out. Yidrim lehezik. Cause him a great damage. So all his life he suffers from kaas, which means anger. It also means aggravation, and pains. Ein chayav chayim. His life is not a life. He has no way of going through life. Tzurachav merubim. He has many needs. Darchei Habitachon he doesn't have bitachon. Shal yador. Shal yodo tushlam loy she'elos hachaim shaloi. He has got the bitachon. That's his answer to all his problems. His answer to all his nervous heart. His answer to all the things, the fearful that he lives under. A guy called me up about a month ago. Somebody I know very well. And the government inspectors that come down to his place, and he was sick. The first thing they did was to take away $150,000 from him. Okay. They didn't want to take away everything from him. So he says to me, it's not criminal. You're not out to put him in. It's just civil. That's what he said to me. And I knew it from this fear in his voice that it was criminal. Because civil, you don't get so scared. Criminal, you get very scared. The guy was very, very scared. It wasn't just money. He was afraid they're going to put him away in Idisville. So the guy's been living with this thing over his head the whole time, and now they came down and caught him, and they stopped him, but it seems he got out of it. People that are involved in all kinds of redlach to get ahead live with constant fear that they're going to get caught. Anxiety. He doesn't see any way of doing it without. He can't see any way of making it. That doesn't cause anxiety. That doesn't cause them to be afraid of being arrested and tried and imprisoned and vuyish. I know a guy that married a girl from a daughter of a big talmid chacham, whose brothers are talmid chachamim. But he was a businessman, a fine young woman, by the way. She's not young anymore; she's a grandmother. He was a businessman. Since he wasn't such a giant in learning, and he's in business, he has to be a successful businessman. He wasn't becoming successful, so he began to delay. Because he has to be a successful businessman. Because everybody else, is there for Shabbos. Everybody else is, talmid chacham. He began to delay. He became also finally one of the people in Addisville. Very fine guy, by the way, I want you to know. But, he has to have this. He has to have this level. He wants to have a certain amount of respect in his wife's eyes. It's a big thing, it's not a small thing. And he ended up with friends and foolish from him. Instead of bringing cover to himself for being a success, he brought bizyonis on himself and on the family, or foolish. Had he been able to accept that whatever happens is good, he wouldn't have put himself in such a position. He wouldn't have suffered all the agonies of being in such a position. And he wouldn't have been caught, because he didn't do anything to get caught on. And he wouldn't go through the trial, and everything else he went through, and he wouldn't have to sit in Addisville. And he wouldn't have to be bizyonis for the rest of his life. What drove him is that he's got to be a big guy. And he's a fine guy, by the way, but has an inner urge to become very important or very big, very rich. What else could he become? And the Frum Welt, how shell-shocked the Frum Welt is from all these stories, they haven't gotten used to it yet. And they still ask questions, should we treat him nicely, should we not treat him nicely? But he's a criminal. In our Welt anyway, Baruch Hashem. I don't know all the circles, I can't tell you. In some circles, they don't care. Maybe. But in our circles, they still are concerned. And he's in our circles. The bizarreness are tremendous. The pain that you have when people think lowly of you is terrible. You try to come and smile to everybody and they smile back. It's only on your mind, what are they thinking? And your wife goes through the same thing and she's going through it too. And your kids and your grandchildren, they all go through the same thing. And and everybody doesn't say a word about it to each other. But you suffer the rest of your life from such a thing. And then, once in a while, you come across the idea of Chil Hashem, Gewalt. Gewalt. It's not worth to be born if you're going to make a Chil Hashem. How do you take that off? Gentlemen, we shall stop.
What was the end of the story that she was out with Virginia Street?
The end of the story? Which one? The one of the water meter?
No. The other one, the guy said he's going to put the evacuation about.
He never kicked us out.
Never.
No. The judge said we have to evacuate. The judge said, out of here in 30 days. That I had gone to see this guy first. He said, I'll never enforce it. The judge doesn't enforce it. He sends an order to the people to kick you out. To the buildings department. He said, I'll never do it. Nevertheless, it's nerve-wracking to go through that. Because how do you know he's going to keep his word? How do you know that his boss won't find out? And he's going to be afraid. How do you know this? How do you know that? So there's no end to the nervousness that you can have over such a mice. How do you know? Okay, that's what happened. And by the way, we had a big parade in May. We marched with the Sefer Torah down Reed's Lane to this building. Not to this building, to the building before this. Music and marching. That's what the end of the story was. The Hashem kicked us out of that building, that we would have had endless agmas nefesh in order to put us in a beautiful building. Of course, it was scary. I was looking for a Rockaway for a house in 1971. We were then in that building on Virginia Street. I couldn't find a house near to Virginia Street. So I bought on Roosevelt Court from a guy $43,500. 43 pennies. I bought the house on Virginia Street. They were living there happily, Baruch Hashem. It was a big move for us. A big financier was hard and everything else. But it was, for me, I'm not a fast walker. It's a 10-minute walk from Virginia Street to Roosevelt Court, back. And sometimes on Shabbos, 3 times a day. And sometimes you can take a car, and sometimes you can't take a car. Sometimes it's raining, sometimes it's snowing, sometimes it's pouring buckets. And then, all of a sudden, Yeshiva was kicked out and moved to Frisco. What happened? He who plans out the future planned that I should be in a convenient location for the building that's going to be. It's not to be believed. He knew we were coming here. He planned on it. And that was the only house available at that time. Just want you to know. That's why that house was available. I had no choice. I lived in Rockaway. I couldn't come from Brooklyn every day. I was in Brooklyn doing that back and forth. It was too much. So I bought that house. B'diavad, I bought the house. We'll walk around. We'll walk and walk and walk. My wife likes to go to shul. We'll all walk. Have little kids. We'll walk. There's no Erev in town. We'll walk. Hashem said, no, you're not going to walk. I'll tell you another little thing that happened, just in case. Mrs. Stein came over to me, and she says to me, Rabbi Perr, would you walk through my backyard for a shortcut? I said, Mrs. Stein, sometimes I have somebody with me, and he will have no permission to go through your backyard. She said, I'm giving permission to anybody you want to take. What do you say to that? That's nice of her part. But it's even nicer from the Bershom's part. What he wants from us is to remember that when we get into another tight spot. So I'm telling you this because I happen to be in a tight spot right now. Where am I tight spot? My wife isn't well, after she was a doctor, after this, after that. I feel it's overwhelming to make the choice. I'm not amazing myself to make the choice. And should we go to Dr. Cohn? Should we go to this place, that place? Maybe she's going to send us to the right place. We'll ride from Virginia Street to here. That's a riot. That's what he wants us to learn. You don't feel strong enough to trust him? Sit down and learn to Ayson Bitachon and get back to it. Okay, they won't lose on it. I'm not going to lose anything, and I'll gain. Whether I need to finish it, because, things are moving. I don't think I'll desert you in the middle, but we'll see. I've said enough for today.